Welcome to our very first Assembly for a Fashion Commons. Hi, I'm Sara Arnold, member of Fashion Act Now and the host for this discussion. Assembly for a Fashion Commons is a series of participatory people's assemblies run by our common market. Through these events, we bring people together to discuss how we can support community-based fashion practices. Over the next hour, we'll introduce you to our common market, Fashion Act Now's newest initiative, and bring you three speakers: Nadia Bunyan of Growing Arc in Montreal, Alice Holloway of the London Urban Textile Commons, and Dorine van de Beukel of Pleed from the Netherlands. These speakers will talk about their experiences of community-based fashion, their vision for a fashion commons, and the challenges they face. This recording doesn't include the participatory discussion, but if you want to read a summary of this, you'll find a link in the description below, or you can head to our common market and find it on our blog. Now I'll hand you over to Zoe to introduce you to our common market.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm Zoe. I'm also a fan member and fashion activist, and I'll just give you a quick introduction to Fashion Act Now and to our common market before we start hearing from our speakers. So I think, as most of you know, FAN is an activist group, and our aim is to find ways to dismantle what we call the big F fashion system and encourage a process of defashioning and redefining what fashion is and what it could be. We're constantly thinking about how we can bring forth ecological and equitable futures, developing a pluriverse of alternatives to extractive industrial fashion. So what we are calling our common market, which is what we're discussing today, has emerged as one of the projects we feel can encourage this. FAN is very inspired by the degrowth movement. And this economic theory underpins what we do. We want to tame or destroy the underlying economic beast that is capitalism and help fashion grow into something more beautiful. We see the commons as a concept and mechanism that can do this. David Bollier, our mentor and supporter, explains, this is his words, while economists generally see commons as things that might be shared, such as oceans, the internet, outer space, these are in fact social systems. They're self-organized communities of people who are dedicated to sharing and managing wealth in fair ways, with minimal involvement by the state or market. So commons take countless forms. They can be community parks or land trusts or open source software networks. They can be farmers based on agroecological principles, or groups who share seeds instead of buying patented seeds. And so a commons can be as simple as a shared family fridge or the pavement we walk on and the air that we breathe. So I hope this helps give you an idea about what the commons is. Silke Helfrich, the late collaborator of David Bollier, an all-round brilliant woman, stated that commons are diverse. They are the fundamental building blocks and precondition of our life and social wealth. They include knowledge, water, seeds, software, cultural works, and the atmosphere. Commons are not just things, however, they are dynamic living systems of life. They form the social fabric of a free society. And this is what we want to build. We want to build a living, breathing fashion commons. And so through our common market, we want to support the global emergence of a new commons. We have an idea of what this could be, but it's really an idea in flux. It's nebulous, it's floating, and it's filled with possibility. And is fashion commons? Is it a form of culture? Is it knowledge? Is it a way of being? It might produce a product, but it might also be a way of working together, cherishing community and saving fashion knowledge that is under threat from a fashion produced by the dominant westernized form of modernity. So we're here today because we've received funding from the Culture of Solidarity Foundation to put together a platform. And we've designed, as a collective, we've designed the beginnings of a website and a means of connection, but these are pretty basic in format at this stage. And before they're crystallized into a more concrete outcome, we want to hear from you. We believe you're all operating in what we are defining as the Fashion Commons, and we want to hear your voice. We want to know what are your challenges, what support do you need to make this alternative, non-industrial, non-extractive clothing system thrive. So this assembly is going to be one of active listening and ultimately co-creation. But before we jump in, as articulated by the Queen of the Commons, Eleanor Ostrom, all successful commons need rules and boundaries to help manage the resource, protect the knowledge and the people operating within the commons. So we've created a code to help identify who might want to be part of our Fashion Commons. And I'm going to quickly take you through it now. It's available on our website, so if you want to come back to it later, you can have a look. But I'll just give you a quick rundown of the rules to our commons, and you can have a think about whether this resonates with you. So we work with nature to protect and restore the living world. We treat fellow sentient and non-sentient beings with care and respect, avoiding any exploitation. The same goes for people. We support cultural expression and rights to dignified livelihoods. We nurture and build community, creativity, and cultures relating to dress, clothing, or bodily adornment. We support a culture of sufficiency, reciprocity, and we celebrate the interconnectedness of all things. We are radically democratic, self-owned, and self-governed, and we are not for profit. We put purpose before capital accumulation to ensure any surplus is fairly distributed. So yeah, you can check out this code on our website, but we hope it resonates with you. And I hope this has given you a good intro into what we're about. And yeah, let's move on to the next stage of the assembly.
So without further ado, I want to introduce our first speaker, Nadia Bunyan. Nadia is a fashion designer and the co-founder of Growing Arc, a farm-to-closet playground in Montreal, Canada. Growing Arc creates spaces and play dates for people to activate, reciprocate, and cultivate their relationships with all beings. The project reinforces connections to the local environment and expands the understanding of biodiversity to include the diversity and perspectives of marginalized people. So Nadia, I will hand over to you.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you everybody for having me here. Yeah, I'm on the spot, I'm first, yay. So what can I tell you about Growing Arc? The first question I remember, yes. What motivates me and what is my practice? These are such big questions. They're so simple, but they're such big questions, right? I started this because, as Sarah said, I have been a fashion designer for a very long time. It's been 25 years that I've been in this industry. And I got into fashion because I love clothes. I love the way they are put together. I love looking at them. I love understanding the stitch. I love all of that. But when you get into the industry, what you begin to realize is that's not what you work on. That's not what you get in touch with. You learn about selling, you learn about creating something to sell product. You don't learn and deal with creativity. And that's what I was losing. And even though I was working to bring up concepts on sustainability and ask, how can we make a more sustainable, and I repeat, a more sustainable, not necessarily a sustainable, but a more sustainable practice or process, there were always these blocks, these roadblocks. And it didn't feel good to me. And it ate away, excuse me. And for me, what I realized was I needed to reconnect with process. I needed to get back to understanding the elements of what I understood and what I saw fashion to be. It wasn't the product at the end of the day. It was all the things that went into making. It was touching, it was a tangible, and it was the connections that you got from that. So I started with something very simple, was putting flax in my backyard. It was really that simple. And I should say that, it's not so simple. It's actually a lot, because I had to let go of a lot of feelings that I was holding in terms of worrying about being able to do this right and understanding everything. I had to let go of that, and I had to trust that it was okay to try and it was okay to fail. After coming from a space where I thought I had to always be perfect. I am the child of an immigrant. I live in a city, a country that is mainly white. It is a colonial space. And I face that every day. I get up and I go into whatever office or whatever space. There aren't many people who look like me. And that is a lot of pressure. And sometimes you don't even realize how much you're taking on that pressure. But it was for me the first time when I realized I don't need to. I can let it go and it doesn't matter. And it took me time to get there. But throughout all my years in the industry, what I was always working towards was this concept around sustainability. And then the other thing I realized, what people were discussing as sustainability seemed very empty and shallow and surface, because it wasn't connected to community, it wasn't connected to people, and it wasn't connected to process in many ways. It wasn't a holistic understanding of what sustainability should be. And for me, that's what growing art could be. It was a space where I could try and do these things, and I could connect with friends and people. And growing art is really a manifestation of my curiosity and playing with that curiosity and connecting with friends. And it came to be. It was other people who had these same questions, who wanted to play, who wanted to get together. And I say play, and it's very important. We have workshops. We don't call our workshops, we call them play dates. And we took that stance because we wanted people to come into these spaces where it was safe to try and just have fun with it, to let go of everything else. Because the other thing about sustainability, the more you read, the more you learn about collapse, and you understand that when you're dealing with concepts around how can we make an ecological transition, you come up head to head with the fact that we live within a system that does not encourage or support an ecological transition. So how are you making this change when you're in a frame that fights you every step of the way? And I realized I could not get bogged down with trying to fight this frame. I need to create my own space within this frame. And whoever wanted to be in that space with me was welcome. And that's what we started to do. And that's what helped me to let go of all these feelings of being overwhelmed. I'm not saying I don't get overwhelmed anymore, but I do understand that I don't have to follow or allow myself to be held back by those feelings, because we have the power within our communities, within our spaces, to create something that is different and separate and what we imagine it to be. We can dream into reality what we want a new systems to be. We can have that prefiguration for something new, and we don't have to participate in a certain way with that bigger paradigm. We can create the paradigm shift within. And that was something I began to understand. And I realized when we say that we activate, reciprocate, and cultivate relationships with all beings, we truly mean all beings. So other people, the plant life, animals, it all exists and we all get to participate. And when we stop and sit, and that is one of the most wonderful things about planting and gardening, farming, and process, is that it gives you time to build relationship, to make space, it gives you time to think and reflect. It gives you time to build bonds. And that's what we do with the plants that we do plant and take care of, and with the people who come and participate in our play dates. I think I say this, the biggest thing, and my best friend and I, friendship is important. Friendship is so important. My best friend and I joke and we say, whenever I'm trying to do something and I'm worried about how it's going to come, and it's kind of the mantra really of growing ARC, is we're just going to try a thing. I told you guys that my family's from the Caribbean, and that's how we think about it, that we're just going to try. Whatever's going to come out, I'm not worried about that I'm getting it right or what the end outcome is going to be. The only thing I'm doing is giving myself space and room to try. And if I mess up, that's okay. I can try it again. And that is a lot of power to understand that you have the ability to try, and you have the ability to fail, and you have the ability to get up and try again. That is so powerful. And we forget that because society keeps telling us we have to get it right. And we actually don't. We just have to keep trying. The other thing I want to say, when we talk about how does this relate to community, it's because of community. What I do could not exist without community, because I talk about my curiosity and playing with curiosity, but for me, that curiosity is all about learning, and learning is about exchange. Knowledge is not owned. I don't know how to, knowledge exists because of exchange and participation and people talking. As a kid, I used to say this thing, I thought I was being cute, but now I look back, I'm like, I get what I was thinking. To learn is to question, and to question is to learn. You can't find out more without asking questions, without thinking about things, and without having conversations with people and connecting and collaborating. And each time you ask a question, somebody has to participate with you, or some being somewhere is participating in that with you, and knowledge is being built. And knowledge continues to be built each time we ask questions and each time we participate in a conversation. And that knowledge, that common space, that is ours, that is shared. It is not owned, and it is free for everybody to have. Knowledge flows through us from one to the other. And this is what I love about having conversations, is each time I speak with somebody, I learn something new. There are people on this call who I've had the opportunity to speak with, and whether it was, just one conversation or a few conversations, the beauty was I was soaking in so much, but it was also an exchange. It was reciprocal because I know I was giving out at the same time. And that was knowledge being shared and then being built on. The challenges in all of that. Capacity. Capacity is, listen, this work is exhausting and energizing. It is both at the same time. It is the most wonderful thing to do and participate in, but it takes so much. And it takes so much because we live in a system that fights against us every time we do something. And I can't, and the people I work with, the people I collaborate with, we all are trying to figure out how do we not fall victim to that. But we still need to build capacity. We need time, we need resources, we need financial resources, because when we talk about building capacity, I'm talking about the physical and emotional labor that you're going to have to go through when you do this work. It's a lot. And it's a lot when you couple it with, you still have to live within the system. You still have to pay bills, or you still have to take care of kids. There's all of these things that we still have to do. And that's a lot to balance. And it's a lot to find that balance, because the other part of it is, because we know that this work is important, we also cannot allow ourselves to fall victim to the work itself in terms of burnout, in terms of doing too much, in terms of becoming physically sick. That is also a reality when we do this type of work. The other thing that is a challenge is the fear. The fear that I'm working on this, and where is it going to go? And not that fear also comes from the outward system. But I also understand that that fear also tells me that I care about the things that I do, and I still care, and to use that to also help to motivate me to move forward. What can help with all of this? Spaces like this. Collaboration, communication, sharing of resources, pointing out to people of resources, and those with the resources and the privilege to be in certain spaces, to open it up and provide access for others, to provide help, to show people pathways or how to navigate certain spaces that they may not be accustomed to, and also a humility and a humbleness from those who do have those spaces, for those who don't necessarily have them, but understand to a degree and an extent that others cannot, to leave space for those people to speak up and to support them in doing that. And that's a lot. It's a lot of humility, and it's a humility that I had to learn, even with being comfortable with being okay to just try and fail. Ego is a problem. It helps us move forward and helps us create things, but it also holds us back sometimes. But that's kind of like every feeling and emotion. selfishness brought me to start growing art because I wanted to understand. But that feeling of me wanting to understand, I also wanted to share what I was learning. So I understand that everything kind of has to have a balance and everything has to act in moderation. And I cannot stress enough how important it is to have supporters and collaborators to do this work, because it cannot be done alone, and it should not be done alone, because that's not how we move. That's not how we create movements, and that's not how we change systems. It's a collaborative effort. It is people coming together. That is what I love about when we think about the commons and community building. It's people coming together to change systems, to make things better, to work for a common good. And in working for that common good, I am taking care of myself. Community and me, the individual, go hand in hand. We're not separate. And though society would like to tell us that we should continue with these individualistic pursuits, understand that if you are taking care of you, the person, you are taking care of your community on a whole. The macro and the micro do go together. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nadia. Thank you for speaking so honestly. I think everything that you've said will resonate with everyone here this evening. I will now move on to our next speaker, Alice Holloway. Alice's practice is rooted in ethics and draws upon female-led expressions of sensuality and empowerment. She co-founded the London Urban Textile Commons with the ambition of creating a common pool of resources of machinery that would be available to grassroots practitioners to enable textile practices that exist outside of the capitalist marketplace. So I will now hand over to Alice.
Hello, everyone. It's been a little while since I spoke on one of these Zoomy things, so I'm feeling like weirdly nervous about it. Okay, so I'm going to share a screen with a few slides, just for the sake of things being visual. Okay. Okay, so the practice I'm kind of here to talk about, I think, is London Urban Textiles Commons. And that came out of a degree in design for the cultural commons that I took at London Met University with a really inspirational kind of thinker and tutor on the commons, Taranj Konsari, who I feel like I should pay my dues to now, because she really inspired so much of what I'm doing now and continues to support so much of what we do now. And so studying the commons in that way kind of gave me this inspirational insight, which I've continued to look into like the original commons and basically medieval culture, so kind of pre-industrial England. And I think it's for me, it was a real kind of breakthrough to think how fashion was actually just right at the core of this change to industrialization. And so I don't know if anyone else as fashion practitioners feel that we are kind of sidelined and made to feel less important than the other arts, but we should really remember that it's because of people's obsession with clothing that we actually ended up with a massive industrialized society. And so actually the way that we operate is totally crucial to how other elements of society operate, and this is actually a real position of power, I feel, and there's lots in there that we can kind of draw on as we try to bring this system change around. And so the kind of vision, and we could argue all day about like everyone died at 40 from a splinter in medieval times, but the vision that I found in this understanding these kind of commons communities which were widespread throughout, and I'm talking about European ones, because it would be deeply disingenuous for me to talk about any from anywhere else. But that we talk, when we look at these commons communities within Europe, so the peasants, basically, I really felt inspired by this vision of a people who had distributed artisanal skills and just felt this real sense of the pride that they must have had in producing all the stuff that the Lord of the Manor was kind of going around with in his performance of wealth and affluence. All of that stuff was made within those communities. And those people were incredibly skilled, incredibly talented, so much creativity. And I just feel like the enclosures and the industrialization kind of stripped that feelings out of our working class and of the people who would have traditionally been the makers within society. And I think that's maybe one of the biggest tragedies, apart from obviously losing access to the land, that period of time gave us. And so
Alice,
oh, sorry.
I hate to interrupt. I'm just wondering, should there be a visual here? Because it says loading and some other people in the chat are saying they're experiencing the same thing.
Oh, on my screen, I can literally see my thing. How do I? So that's not changed. Oh, screen sharing is paused. Ooh, should I try again? Just stop sharing.
Yeah, maybe just try again. I guess it's always the first thing to do, isn't it? So I'll try again.
What has happened? Okay, let's try it. Maybe I need to do it this way around. Oh, here we go. Sorry, everyone. How annoying.
Okay. Well, maybe while you're doing that, I know some people in the chat have asked about the recording, and we will be recording everything but the breakout rooms. The breakout rooms will be private conversations, and that will be available to everyone.
How about now?
That we can see, yeah.
Oh, well, it was only that. That's what you missed so far. Okay, so yeah, okay, so this new idea of like distributed talent, skill, like artisanal community, this really kind of informs my practice going forward. And so this other amazing thing about kind of commons-based communities is this idea that they have an embedded understanding of the land, and the idea that all our objects and basically our care is land-based. So here I've got like a reimagining of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but as a kind of like a rippling out of care. So caring not just for shelter, you know, the kind of basic human needs, but how we care for people through cultural objects. So through the way that we process raw materials into objects of care, how that then we care for the full human and the full human expression. And that this, I feel like, is fundamental to a kind of reimagining of clothing, as it were, as taking it out of the profit economy and putting it into this understanding of care, and that it's a care for someone's social expression and their individuality and their contribution within the community and their autonomy, as much as it is a care for like that they don't freeze to death whilst they pick beans, for instance. And so when I think about building commons-based fashion practice, I think there is so much scope to improve people's standard of living and people's experience of life now. And so for a long time, I made bespoke underwear, and I still do. I don't have so much time to do it now, but that's been my kind of main expression as a designer, if you like, is that I make bespoke underwear and working with people and working intimately with their body. And obviously underwear is a highly functional garment. You really see how lacking the industry that we have now is. All it does is make cheap stuff. It barely meets people's other needs in terms of, I would have so many women who, you know, they're very, maybe a niche size, they're very limited in which bra they can buy anyway. And the one that they can get to fit, they feel like their kind of sexuality is diminished by wearing that garment because it's not an expression of their version of sexuality, of what they want to present in the world. And mass production can never square this circle. It cannot speak to who we are as full human beings. So we already have opportunities to offer something that is an improvement on what mass production is giving people now. And so these are kind of the key ways that I think we don't just offer an improvement now through participation, through bespoke fit, through distributed design. So many more people having access to designing or co-designing the garments, through, like Nadia was saying, the spread of skills and the transfer of skills knowledge. These are what we have now to kind of raise up people's standard of life now, but we also have this side order of adaptation. So as we look into the future, we're looking at working on this gives people the resilience, the creativity, the understanding of how the world works, the insight into nature. That then means as the challenges start to come at us with climate change, communities feel able to respond to them in a meaningful and positive way. And so as we kind of look at the potential of collapse, which obviously we're always trying to fend off, but you know, if that's what's coming our way, by bringing people in to methodology and process of production, we are giving them tools to approach collapse with pride, with dignity, with a sense of autonomy, knowing that we made every machine. Humans have made every machine that we have. These are not mystical objects. These are totally part of our creative drive as humans. So at the moment, London Urban Textile Commons, it obviously has this very ambitious aim to make machinery available to a wide range of practitioners in order to facilitate invention and progress, such a hated word, but you know, on sustainable and ecological grounds. However, we have to start small because none of us is from a wealthy background. And so what we're really focused on now is inviting people into the experience of process. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned from doing that is that I would always use the analogy like it's a heavy clay soil. It's really been dried out and the nutrients have really been stripped out of communities. And so what we want to do is just keep layering that compost on it and keep trying to get the richness back in there. And so we really think carefully about the gift, about what we are offering that is generous. And so when we bring people into this experience, it's really from this gift mentality that we know that we need to nurture something into being. And so this is a project that we have started with and had a lot of fun with. And it's a bicycle powered overlocker. So we've hacked together a normal overlocker with a bicycle. It's really simple technology. And we go to various events and we make people sweatshirts for free, like there and then. And people take part by kind of pedaling the overlocker. And the idea of this is to give people this like very simple but very visceral, very embedded experience of the process of having a sweatshirt made, and to just give them a little taste of this future imaginary that we're bringing to the table. And we also haven't spoken for a long time to anyone about, oh, did you know it takes this many liters of X to make a pair of jeans, or like, did you know that this many rivers are poisoned by when you do this or that? Because my thinking with this idea of the commons and also the enclosures, my thinking shifted so much to just, and this is an Austrian principle, that people make good decisions for themselves if they really have an experience of the consequences. So the kind of education needs to be physical, it needs to be embedded, it needs to be experiential, not just kind of facts and figures and numbers and shame, essentially. And so this is our like first stab at that, if you like, is just sort of presenting like, this is a way we could make sweatshirts. Like, I could just make one for you now, it takes 20 minutes. You could pedal it and then seeing how people respond to that and what they're, you know, and just if that opens up their curiosity, that's amazing. If it doesn't, you know, we, like you've said in your principles at the beginning, we respect the sovereignty of every being. So it's really not about legislating or about forcing people to do things, but it is about believing that people have the capacity, the skills to come into a new way of being with us. So this is kind of the broader goal, is like these hyperlocal supply chains. And I've just been made centre manager at the Remakery, which is a makerspace in Brixton. So that's quite exciting because now I have access to some space to be able to kind of work on these and start to bring some of these elements into being. So we're kind of starting with sweatshop and working back from there to kind of, can we make a whole sweatshirt in Brixton? What does that look like? But it's really nice to have a little room to invite people to kind of take part in that with us. And I'm very lucky that there are lots of practitioners in Brixton who are kind of interested to come on this journey with me. So this is the sort of next stage. I really love distributed technology, or like mid-scale technology. So it's something between the hand tool and the kind of 5,000 meter minimum order quantity of what we have now, like the kind of in between in that space. And I think as like someone who's always a little bit fascinated with industrial design, there's like, again, it's like an opening out of a vista of possibility, that there might be all this technology still to make, which is zero carbon. It could easily be pedal powered. Like the bicycle wasn't invented until all that coal machinery was already in place. So we have never tried a pedal powered route. Do you know what I mean? And so we actually got so much possibility and experimentation ahead of us. And so that's kind of what we're going to start playing with, because we're in this makerspace. So we have the opportunity to kind of play with creating machinery, which is really fun for me. And also we noticed with the bicycle overlocker that there wasn't as much fascination with how it worked itself as with the process of making the sweatshirt. And so like breaking open the fourth wall on technology is another way of kind of bringing people into this future where they have so much more to give, and like such a kind of more elevated position within their community, because we start to say, well, you know, that we can make machines. And like, you know, quite often you really blow people's minds with that idea. Yeah, so the things I think we need are parties. I just think fashion is about parties, and I think in terms of attracting funding and stuff, like wealthy people like to party. So, you know, this seems like a great thing to at least try. So that would be one thing. Let's have more parties. Let's have more like weird machines. Like, let's get really kind of sort of junkyard punk on it and start making. And that's what we'll be doing at the Remakery. So if you're interested in that, please come and hang out, because we're going to have some design jams and try and put together some like blacks bashing sort of things that will go sort of off of one bicycle and stuff like that. And I think, yeah, we do need participation, unfortunately, for a commons to work. And actually that's like reasonably hard to do. So I think as much as possible, getting the experimentation and the data and the ideas together about how we really get people to come and play with us, like Nadia said, to come and be part of this and to join in. And obviously we want that to be like the broadest possible demographic. So yeah, like sharing, community, these are things which are quite, you know, unusual in the way that we live now. So building those things does need concerted effort and a lot of, again, this kind of knowledge sharing and just spreading the ideas around and giving each other, yeah, this really worked, that didn't work so well, Instagram's not working for me, but we put a food bank in the Remakery and now we've got loads of people coming to the repair workshop on a Tuesday. You know, just getting together that knowledge base is going to be really crucial, I think. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alice, for sharing so much knowledge with us. And yes to more parties, yes to more participation, and also kind of re-engaging people's common senses. I love this, that, you know, people make good decisions for themselves if they can see the consequences. So now we will move on to our next speaker, Dorine van der Beukel. I hope I said your surname right. I believe you've now got into Zoom. And so for the last decade, Dorine has been actively involved in community building in several different areas, in textiles, the sourcing of transition materials, mobility, and also in local food connections. Working on her new book about the need for knowledge of long gone local materials, as well as the production of those materials, she has created these kind of craft networks, one of these being Pleed. That's spelled actually P-L-E-E-D, but I believe we pronounce it plate in English. This promotes the production and use of local wool in the Netherlands. Her new shop seeks to define what a local shop is, and in terms of sustainable, community-based, and future-proof practices. So, Dorine, I will pass over to you.
Well, first, let me tell you, I'm very happy to be here. Sorry, I had some trouble logging in, so I apologize for arriving late. That wasn't my intention. I will share my screen, try to share my screen. Oh,
I
I
believe
cannot.
I might need to make you a co-host. If you just wait 1 second. So you should now have that share screen, the green button at the bottom of your screen.
It disappeared. It was
disappeared.
Yeah, sorry.
That's
was
okay.
just maybe. Screen.
I mean,
Sorry, one moment.
shall
yeah.
I? Yeah.
Yeah, I found it.
Okay, great.
Okay. So here, yeah, I want to start to tell you something about Pleed. That's how you came to find us. We are an initiative, and actually we started a bit by accident. As I was researching wool for my book and giving a lecture in the Netherlands, all wool is being well, it was being shipped to China, but now China doesn't even want it anymore, so it's being incinerated in many cases, which we thought was quite a waste. And the man you see there is the shepherd of our city, and he offered me the wool of all his flock. He said, because you're right, it's being wasted. And my friends you see all in the pictures, and we decided, why can we not try to make blankets out of this wool to show people what a beautiful material it is. But in the Netherlands, all spinneries had gone at that time. This was about 3 years ago. So we had no spinneries, no professional weaveries. We had nothing. So we started in the local newspaper. We asked who wants to help us to make a blanket. And we had quite a lot of reactions. So we had a lot of volunteers who hand spun and hand knitted, hand wove. And from the first year, we have now grown to, we had 80 volunteers, and now we have a community of 1,500 followers through the whole country. And well, wool has been traditionally used in the Netherlands, like in the UK, but in our case, it looked like this a long time ago. And we have also been plagued by shipping disasters in our area, where containers were lost at sea and our islands were polluted with plastic. So that was a great motivation for a lot of people to join us in working with the natural fibers. Well, this is, we thought, let's just make a vision of what it's on the left side. You can see we had a lot of waste, and we made a vision. We want a country with new factories, small factories, people repairing their clothes. So these are the sheep that roam in the Netherlands and are kept in the Netherlands. And this is on our first shearing day where we fleece. And what we didn't expect, we just started to make blankets, but it got out a lot of reactions from society. So we got being asked by schools, can you teach our children to work with wool? People, well, a lot of people joined us, and we had connections with musea, and we found in the archives the recipe for dyeing wool with woad, and it was an ancient recipe of a wool merchant in our region. And so the next year we started to experiment with growing woad, because woad wasn't available in the Netherlands. So we just asked everyone, will you help us? We'll send you a package of seed, and can you grow some woad for us in your garden? And we experimented with the old recipes and adapted them to into a booklet, so that everyone now knows how to grow woad and dye with it. So these are some examples of the blankets. And well, the level of work was exceptionally, the technique was, everybody was a good spinner or knitter, but we also had a lot of people who learned to spin. They thought, oh, I want to join and I want to learn how to do this. We also made an exhibition where we wanted to show the beauty of wool, the beauty of craft, and the most current productions of wool in the Netherlands. So that's what we also did. And we also joined, we made a day for all the wool producers in the Netherlands and wrote a manifesto of how we think we should go about promoting wool. And these are some of our publications. And on the right, you see our manifesto. And well, some of you might recognize the donuts. And now we're trying to take it a step further, and I'm opening a temporary shop. I call it a shop, but it's actually an exhibition with a few products for sale. And I want to try, how does it work if you want to open a shop, and how do you get products in there that are completely local? So I will be opening the exposition actually next week. So if you're in the Netherlands, you're all welcome. And well, we will be doing a lot of workshops, and next year we will be trying to experiment what will we need to do to make a coat, because in our region from the 8th century onwards there have been archaeological finds that there was quite a large wool trade and export of coats, and now there's nothing. So we want to try and see how can we reinstate that. We have now managed to dye blue, we've managed to weave and spin, and how can we make maybe some small scale machinery, introduce that. So I'm very excited about the bike and what you just said about the machines. So we wanted to take it a step further. And well, that's it.
Thank you so much, Dorine. It's so lovely to see all these sheep. And I wish I could come visit your shop, your exhibition shop.
Yeah, it will be only open for 1 week, huh? And then I will be popping up or you can call me and I can come. But
hopefully some people who are on this Zoom will make it.
Yes.
Some of us are too far away.
Yes, I understand.
So I'm now going to open up for a quick Q&A. We're going a bit over time, so but we do have time for a Q&A. So if you would like to ask any questions to any of our speakers, please do raise your hand using the reactions. I see Rosie. Hi, Rosie.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I loved all the presentations. They're so fascinating. And I guess, well, it was mainly a question for the second presenter, but kind of for everybody, if they want to jump in, of like, specifically like what kind of machines are you hoping to have in your space? And I guess kind of an offer, because I'm working on developing some like flax processing and spinning machines, but I'm also collaborating with some people that are making some wool spinning machines. So yeah, I was just really interested in the sort of machinery aspect of it.
So we've got so we're kind of coming at it from like a design jam perspective. So it's about, again, like a participatory practice. So we want to get industrial designers in the area together with, hopefully, you know, normal people, as it were, to kind of hack stuff together, basically, for now, and then build up from there. I've got in my head, the first one is just like a row of those flax bashes that you just pedal power it, and it's all cams, and they just kind of go up and down. And I think kids love pedaling bicycles, it turns out. So if you want to trick kids into be interested in sustainable fashion, you just give them some kind of bike to ride. And we're going to look at an oak bark scratter for tanning oak bark. I think like all the spinning is so fascinating. And I mean, yeah, I'd really like to go on the natural fiber tour, because it seems to me like spinning now is about laying out the roving to be exactly the right thing, and then just putting a twist in it. Like, that's how industrial process seems to be, just add as many steps as possible to like get the thing done, whereas a human can kind of just use their hand in a different way, right? But the original spinning machines actually had some kind of grip that then shot along a line to kind of release the twisted yarn. They're like absolutely mental how someone sort of came up with that. So yeah, I'm really interested in all of it, all the machines. I love that needle felting thing, and I think that could work really well with sweatshop, in that we could have some kind of you can make a bit of fabric and then we'll sew it into the sweatshirt. I'd really love like a massive drum jersey knitter where people just sort of pass this like shuttle round, and it's just kind of this big bit of jerseys coming out the bottom. But I think it's tension in all of that is the complex thing. And if you can kind of rattle it along the street on a bike, and then it will actually do anything when it gets there. So yeah, I'm up for all of it. So let's talk, basically, and let's try and hang out.
Sounds amazing.
I want to jump in, Rosie, also. And I did reach out to you on Instagram, because one of the things that we do want to do, everything we do is how do we connect regular people with understanding the process and everything behind it. So also, how can we create machines that people could use? And one of the things that, I mean, this is a common story for most people, in North America, the Western side of the world, Western culture, is we don't have the machines, which, you know, beautiful that Alice is breaking on that. But it's how do we, when we make machines, how do we make machines that are really centered around communities and small to medium scale? How do we make it small, and how do we make it so that people still are part of the process, and it's not the machine doing everything, but that we're really a part of how we create and make. So one thing that we keep, you know, Growing Arc is small and we're starting out, but right away we came up with this, we realized like, okay, so there are no wet spinners that exist. How do we do this wet spinning? We can spin by hand, but if we really were thinking about bioregional design, you can't really go past to the next step because you don't have this machine to kind of do anything on a small to medium scale. So it is something that we are thinking about. And that's the next machine that we would really like to, or the first machine, I should say, that we'd really like to get into, is experimenting with how can we do that? How can we do that on a of it to be industrial. We want it to always be
You
there.
froze for a second, Nadia. I don't know if you could go back about 10 seconds. We lost you.
Okay, I maybe have been at the point where I was saying it's not, so we want to start small, keep it for a community use, village use really. But the idea is never to actually create something that's industrial in scale, because we actually think once you get to a certain level, that's where things begin to fall apart, that you can't, like, these concepts don't work on that size. And when we think about community and connection, it's really globalization should be what it is right now. People coming together in a space to share and collaborate and talk about things. And then you go back to your communities and you work through the problems that are specific to where you're at. So what you're doing, it's like, okay, that's really interesting. How does that work for me in Montreal? Or how does that work for somebody in Vancouver? Or how does that work for somebody in Devon? Or wherever you are, how does it work for the place that you are with the materials that you have available to you? And can you then adapt it to that, so that you are actually working bioregionally with what you have? So that's what I would love to know more about and experiment with to create something truly local. Wet spinner.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to build at the moment. So I'll send you a message about it.
Any other comments on that or any more questions? I'm just looking, I'm amazed. There's so many people here. It's so wonderful to see so many people. Well, if there's nothing else, then I think we'll move on to the next section. Did I just hear somebody?
Yes. Henrike?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Do you have...
Hello. And yes, this wet spinning is also in my I'm also cultivating flax with a group, and this is really yeah, you know, we can spin by hand, but to have it one more scale up is really important. And I really love what you say, that this machine and human collaboration, yeah, that is really cool. So if somebody can, if we can, how do you say that? Yeah, if we can invent, or if we can have a small scale machine for the wet flax spinning, that would really be super helpful.
So I would love to pass over to Sandra for our closing statement. Sorry, Sandra, I know you were going to have a bit of time in between to digest everything, but here we go. I'm passing to you now.
Thanks, Sarah. And I know my time is very short here. Our time is very short. And maybe that's an advantage for me, because the wealth that has come out of this evening is absolutely spectacular. Everybody, all of our speakers have had such rich experience to share with us. To summarize all of that would take me just as long as we've already had. So I'm going to keep this quite short and come back to maybe a summary of what we hope FAN can represent, do together. I'm so in love actually with how this evening has happened, how things have come together, the ideas that have emerged. And I hope it's been really clear that FAN has this evening been very happy to provide a space. I call it a pool, a platform, a pool, a place where we can come together, share ideas, and see what emerges. So we've taken care to pull in ideas, and we hopefully will all come out of it enriched with new pathways to follow, or new connections to bring us together. There are many people who say that the next step will be about reconnecting with ourselves, with each other, with the earth, and so on. And we would like to have FAN become that place that safe place, that open space for that kind of connecting that will be generative, that will lead us to, let's say, composting the current fashion system, which is destructive, and moving on to something that's regenerative. So today, I hope we've made history, because this is the first of our assemblies. The OCM, our common market that a couple of fan members have already mentioned today, will be that space. And we will be launching our common market, or at least the website, the actual website, fairly soon, within a couple of months. But now you've already been part of that historical moment when we come together and create that assembly atmosphere of reciprocal helping. We hope that all of you will have benefited tremendously from this evening, or even if not tremendously, at least had a sense of inspiration from it, and will not let the ball drop here, but will carry it. And we, I believe, have in the chat the addresses that you need for Fashion Act Now, for our common market, so that you can join us. There are no expectations in joining. It's an opportunity, and out of it will come as much as people put into it. We hope that it will grow, we intend that it will grow organically through you. And we believe that this is the way forward, that it's got to be grassroots, it's got to be through the commons, that there will be no leaders, that we will all lead together, that it will be through our collectiveness that we will move forward. So I guess that's the only thing to say now is we are you, you are us. We thank you. You made this evening for us, all of us. Thank you so much.